Welcome to John S. Sports Channel, where I endeavour to do the predictions for the Championship Week 36. Remember, it's just for fun. It is my take on it, but I do take the research and the predictions from several other people in the business who have their own big channels. So let's just have a look, and we'll start with Norwich versus Oxford. Now, I had a look at the Norwich-Blackburn game, 1-1, and really, Norwich have been playing the dark arts football for quite a while. I remember at the beginning of this season saying, they've been playing almost sort of League One, League Two style tackling here. More taking people out and hoping that they don't get a yellow card for it. And again, in the Blackburn game, they did exactly the same, and the crowd were booing away at one point, or several points, when Norwich just seemed to take out players and the game gets continued as if nothing's happened. This is where I'm going to be going with this particular prediction, guys, because Oxford, they played really well, didn't they? They came back twice. They lost 3-2 against Coventry, but that game was a real humdinger, end to end, lots of attacking. Okay, I think Coventry had twice as many shots on goal, but overall, Oxford gave a good account of themselves, and I think that they played a really good attacking football. The back line is a little bit iffy and can do with a little bit more consistency at the back. However, the front line I'm no problem at all with, and the midfield is pretty good as well. If we look at Norwich City, the win, draw, lose, draw, win, draw. It's been pretty up and down, and actually throughout the season they've been okay. Not their usual brilliant selves as they have been in seasons before. And Oxford, like I say, they've been playing pretty good football. Norwich in 11th versus Oxford in 18th. And I think Oxford are now just thinking there are a couple more wins, just a couple, 3, perhaps 2, 3, and they may be out of that relegation hunt and away from the drop. So what do we think here? What do we think? Well, I have to go to your thoughts first. 2-1, 2-1, 2-0, 2-1, 2-0. Now, I have an issue with this, and it's the fact that when Norwich have done well, they've done well purely by the fact that they've been playing these dark arts football. And sorry, I know that some of the Norwich fans will say, we're not playing dark arts, we're just playing football. No, some of those tackles, especially at least 2 or 3 of those tackles against Blackburn, should have warranted a yellow card at least, and didn't get anything. So there is a certain amount of dark arts going on with the Norwich City play. That, whether you agree with that or not, I'm sorry, that's my view. Put your comments down below if you disagree. Please don't go and click the dislike. It just screws the video up. But I think Oxford, coming from League One and League Two, are able to cope with this. They've just got the fan base and the mentality seems to have just kept in the team, and that's good because it means that they're used to this sort of hard tackling, get in your face type of football that Norwich seems to be just starting to try and get away with, and are getting away with. I think that Oxford may be able to do something here and be able to get something against a side that's playing that little bit more rough and tumble, because I think they're more used to it. So I'm going to go completely against you guys, and I'm going to go Norwich City 2, Oxford 2. And we'll move on to the next game, our Saturday games. So let's go with Coventry versus Stoke, and this is a 12:30 game. So now we looked at Coventry. Coventry, obviously, we looked at before against Oxford, and it was an absolutely brilliant game. They had about 18 shots, and nearly twice as many as Oxford. And remember as well, they're away from home with a boisterous crowd, really good crowd at Oxford. And you have to think that they did remarkably well. That back line, they just got tricked a few times. And there were times when you looked at that back line, you think, on a second look, should Oxford have done this? Should Oxford have done that? Or should Coventry have done that? And should Coventry have done this? But on the whole, I thought that they played pretty well at the front, and actually I thought they played pretty well at the back. Some of those, those 2 goals were actually really good goals. Don't take it away from them. They were good goals. Yeah, there were 1 or 2 mistakes in there as well. Like the goal, the soft goal that Coventry got, for instance. However, on the whole, if you take that 1 goal out of those 5 goals, were all pretty damn good. So it was a good game to watch. Brilliant game to watch for a neutral. And we look at how they've been playing: lose, lose, win, 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 win. And you think that the confidence is there. And they can do these it's a sheer audacity to head above the goalkeeper and just tap it in the net, head it in the net, was just absolutely, the audacity was brilliant. And it comes from being so confident. It really does. 4 wins on the row. Will they get 5? Well, Stoke City, draw, lose, win, lose, draw. Last time out, draw against Watford. Really must just go to the stats, because I saw this one as it was being played on our watch-alongs. And 2 shots on target in the entire game for Stoke City, 1 on target for Watford. I think they're not counting the off-the-bar ones. There's perhaps 2 or 3 off-the-bar ones. As I think they're classing those as off-target. However, it was so dull. The first half was probably edged by Watford. Tame shots and really way off shots, and you're thinking the crowd. As a neutral, I was looking at it and thinking this is absolute dross. And in the second half, Stoke City just about edged it. I mean, just about. And maybe 1 or 2 of those shots. I mean, the 1 or 2 of those. I think they had 2 shots that were pretty damn good, and the curl was almost there, but it just went completely wide. And you're thinking, yeah, a couple of foot, 3 or 4 foot, the other, you have more curl, and it would have been an absolute corker. But on the day, so few shots. The defence had very little to do on either side, and the attack, fizzled out at the last minute nearly every time on both sides. I thought this game was probably only a little bit better than a few years ago when I saw Derby County versus Watford, and I think they had 0 shots on target throughout the entire game. And that still remains the most boring game I've ever seen. And we have to take that into consideration, don't we? We have to take that into consideration. And then we have to look at the table. Coventry are in 5th. They are now wanting to make sure they keep up that push, make sure they keep above Bristol City in this case, and Blackburn, just 1 point below them in 7th and 8th. Certainly don't want to be going behind them. So they're wanting basically at least a draw from this, preferably a win to keep ahead of everybody else. But everybody else is losing and drawing as well up there. So that's why the table's so level. And Stoke City in 20th on 36 points. 5 points above Luton. Now Cardiff and Stoke are just pulling away from the bottom 3, Luton, Plymouth and Derby. They're 5 points ahead, the pair of them. And they just don't want to lose. Just don't want to lose. As long as they keep getting points, they'll be happy, because they're not going to get into the Premier League. They're not going to get into the top 6. But they sure as hell don't want to be down in the bottom 3. They can see where they are. A point will be quite good for them. And realistically, with that in mind, when you look at what these 2 teams are trying to achieve and how they played in the last game, I really can't see Stoke City coming out with anything other than let's just make sure we get at least a point out of this. But they don't, they'll have to make sure that back line is a hell of a lot tighter, because it has been prone to do some stupid things, especially the goalkeeper we sold you, doing some pretty insane manoeuvres like rolling the ball straight to an attacker. which I've seen him do twice now, and it's just so comical. Whereas you got Coventry with like 18 shots, I think, in the last game, and you're thinking they're going to get pummeled. They're going to get pummeled. What are you saying? 3-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-1, 2-1. You're all saying it's going to be Coventry. You're all saying it's going to be by something to 1, which is really interesting. I can't see Stoke City scoring. I'm sorry. I'm going to go Coventry 3. Stoke City 0. I'm sorry for laughing. If you don't believe me and you don't agree with me, then put the comment down below. Like I said, try not to click the dislike unless you really have to. It is a bit of fun at the end of the day, and yes, Stoke City could win this 1-0. Who knows? But I very much doubt it. The risks are certainly the opposite way around. We're going to go on now to Watford versus Millwall. We've been talked about Watford just now, haven't we? So it's a good little flow, this, isn't it? So obviously, I'm not too up on the injury front. So maybe one or two people are looking and thinking, but we've got our main striker back. I'm not really going to be looking at that. So if you have them, please do give us a comment underneath, and we can take that into account and possibly even do a separate video, which I have done once this year already. Watford versus Millwall. And Watford played that awful game, and it really was awful, I'm sorry, but it was the most dull game I've seen since the Watford Derby County game. Least said the better. Watford lose, draw, lose, win, win, draw. They have been getting a little bit more of a run of the green. I mean, let's just look at one of those. Let's look at the win against Luton 2-0, and we'll look at the stats there. 5 shots on target there in the entire game, which is actually not too bad at all, is it? But only 10 shots at target. So, you are waiting 9 minutes for the next shot. Not too bad. Certainly not as bad as the last game. So they can play better football. They can push forward a little bit more, and they can take their chances and shoot. But it just happened to be the game against Stoke just fizzled out with both doing exactly the same as each other. And this is what I'm on about. The games where both teams have a similar attitude just means that they tend to lock horns together and it becomes the most dull game ever, especially if both teams try not to lose. Here, I don't think we've got that problem. We've got a Watford team there who can play better, didn't play that good last time out, against a Millwall team who played really well. They lost against Bristol City, and if you look at the actual Sky coverage of it, you look at the video, it looks like, to all intents and purposes, it was a whitewash by Bristol City, but it wasn't. There were 13 shots for Millwall and 11 shots for Bristol City. It's just the fact that Millwall only managed 1 on target and no goals, and Bristol City had 5 shots on target and 2. So Bristol City fans will be thinking that was a good game of football, and they did what they had to do, and it was good ratios and it was good fun. Millwall fans, they'll have been a bit frustrated, I think is probably the word. They played a good game of football. They just couldn't get one on a shot on target, apart from that one official one that was on target. I thought it looked more than that, but we'll go with the official stats of 1 on target, and they'll have been pretty frustrated that game. And I must put the kibosh on this, because at the first beginning of the season, I'm saying Millwall were really good at home, and they get beaten 2-0. So what have Millwall been doing? Lose against Plymouth 5-1. Wrong time, wrong place, wasn't it? Straight after the Liverpool win for Plymouth. And then they've gone lose, draw, win, lose. And they just seem to have lost their way lately. And I don't think they've been playing bad football. This is the weird thing. I think they've actually been playing pretty decent. It's been a little bit, it's just been a little bit odd. Millwall obviously lost Liam Roberts against Palace, and I think that is really where at the minute where we're coming from. That was an absolute howler, really was. However, we have to think, what has that done? Because in that game, Millwall didn't have much of the play, only 24%. Oh, you are talking Palace. However, they had 6 shots and 2 on target. This is and 1 goal. You're thinking they actually did damn well. So the front end can play really well, even without Liam Roberts in it. So there's no sort of command and authority there, but they played really well. I think that it's going to be an interesting game because Bristol City BT Millwall will make Millwall want to make sure they can do a hell of a lot more this time. Watford in 10th, Millwall in 12th, and that's the other thing. We're really talking about 6th place in 52, 3 points away from Watford. Okay, 7 points away from Millwall. But if they made a run now, Millwall could just about sneak in on that last place. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because it's not likely, but it is possible. There's, we're only on the 36th game now. 10 games. There's 11 games to go. 10 games after this one. We could quite easily see a run of 4 or 5 getting you straight into that 6th place or challenging for it. Certainly, because they're not all winning. They're not winning constantly. Coventry aren't winning all their games. West Brom certainly aren't. And the teams below them, Bristol City and Blackburn and Borough, certainly aren't. So you're thinking, if they had a good run, they certainly could. And I think that's going to be something that the fans are certainly buzzing about and thinking, if only we could get that form back. So how do you lot see this going? Watford versus Millwall, Rembo, 1-0, 1-1, 1-1, 1-0, 1-1. You're all plumping for the Watford against the Millwall. Now, I can see why people are thinking that backline, you're going to get a lot of goals in. But Watford aren't really shooting that much. And they're a little bit dry at the minute as far as shots are concerned. However, like I said, Luton was completely different 2 games ago, and they had a few shots in there. So, which team will turn up? The one that wants to take that shot and take that chance, or the one that doesn't because it didn't against Stoke? Find it a little bit different. Perhaps this is an injury issue. Please put it down below and give me your comments. But at the minute, I can see this being exactly what you're 1-0 to one way, 1-0 the other way, or sit on the fence with a 1-1. And I just cannot seem to think which way it's going to be. I think it's going to be 1-0 either way. But I'm going to go with Watford 1, Millwall 1. I'm going to sit on the fence, but I've got a feeling this could be 1-0 either way. Purely because if Watford don't do many shots like they did against Stoke City, the fact that Millwall are a bit rough at the back won't make any difference, and it'll just be a case of can Millwall get one in the net, and in which case 1-0, 1-1 is a good prediction. And we'll go on to the next game, which is Bristol City versus Hull City. So match of the cities. So let's have a look at the Bristol City against Hull City. Bristol City draw, lose, win, draw, win, win. They've been doing quite well, and they seem to have stopped doing that big yo-yo act, and they started to do a sort of semi-yo-yo where they had really well one week and then okay the following game. And they seem to have struck a little bit of a rich seam, don't they? The last time out, winning against Millwall, that was a really good game. Actually, I felt that was a really exciting game to watch. And actually, although they had less shots than Millwall, they actually utilised their shots a little bit better, and they were just a little bit more clinical. And they deserved the win, 2-0, and away at Millwall as well, just to make me sound totally stupid. Don't you dare. Go on, comment below, I don't care. Hull City against Plymouth. What do we say about this game? Look, the first goal, a lot of people are thinking both goals were offside. The first one wasn't, because the Hull City player wasn't taking advantage of his position. In fact, it was completely the opposite. The Plymouth players were taking advantage of his position by running quicker than what he was walking back, and he was walking the opposite direction away from goal. So he wasn't taking advantage of play. If anything, the Plymouth players were taking advantage of the fact that he wasn't running in the opposite direction quick enough, and made him be there like, I need to walk back. He was obviously offside. If he'd have stood stationary, or if he'd have turned round after the ball had come across, he would then have been found offside because he'd turned and took advantage of being there. So not offside. The second one, however, about 6 yards offside. Absolutely, the linesman got that one totally wrong, and I know totally erred on that one. I think on the whole, though, we look at the Plymouth game, and yeah, it was the right result. I think 2-0 to Hull City. 48% possession to Hull, 52 to Plymouth, but Plymouth got 3 shots in the entire game, 0 on target, whereas Hull got 11 and 5 on target. They did deserve to win it, absolutely. They were the better side. I would have expected more shots from them. They did seem to just get into the Plymouth half and then just slightly slow down, and there was a lot of pass backs. Whereas you expect them to pass across or pass forward, and just one or two where they didn't quite. They were a bit selfish, and instead of passing it to someone else to try a different angle or a different way in, they decided to go themselves and lose the ball. So a little bit of a niggle there from me for Hull City. They could have done so much better, and that side actually, if it had done that, could have absolutely trounced Plymouth on the day. Certainly not just by 2-0 or 1-0 as it should have been. And this is going to be quite difficult. And the reason why I say that is you've got Bristol City there in 7th, wanting to just keep up with that top end. They're in 7th. They're equal on points with 6th place. They just need a few goals, a fair amount. They're on 7 goal difference, and West Brom are on 13. So there's a fair few goals to grab back in the last 11. However, you've then got Hull City there on 36 points in 19th, and Luton are on 31, 5 points ahead of them. They're probably safe, but they're in that grey area where we've seen teams get dragged down in the last 10 or 11 games. And that's where we are. And they're not safe yet. So Hull City will be trying their best. And I think Bristol City will be trying their best, because they both want to win. They both want to win this. It's not a case of, we just don't want to lose it. This is a case of we have to win it. Which makes it for, I think, a really high-scoring game. Now, I know what you're going to say. That I don't think any of them in the last 6 games have scored more than 2. Certainly Bristol City, the maximum was 2, 2, 1, 2, 0, 1. Yeah, okay, going backwards, they've not scored many. And it's similar story with Hull City. But, here, when things are getting tough and they really need to score the goals, I can see 3 goals coming here. I'm going to get slightly pushed towards what you're thinking, because and to what the other things like Blue Monday podcasts have come up with, because they've done their research and they know what injuries are going on. What are you saying? 2-1, 2-1, 1-0, 1-0, 2-0. Now, I think that both teams will score here. I absolutely can see both teams scoring. To say that it's going to be one or the other is actually quite difficult. They're both wanting to get there. They've both done a really good game last time out. I actually thought the better of those games was probably play-wise was Hull City's. However, they didn't take the chances that they could, and they kept passing back. And I think Bristol City might just manage to get something out of that reform and reconstitute that back end a little bit quicker than what Plymouth could. I can see this being a draw. I really can. The only trouble is I can see both teams winning. I can see both teams winning. I can see both teams scoring. I'm going to go the way you're going to, the way the other podcasts have gone. I'm going to go Bristol City 2, Hull City 1, purely on the fact that I think both teams are going to score, and I think that being at home and being near the top of the league, where they've really, really, really got to win, is going to really drive that home team to be just that little bit ahead of Hull City, and I've just got that little niggle with Hull City at the front end, not taking their chances as far as we could have just not been selfish, and we could have given it to someone else to get in a different direction. Now, that's really the two ways I'm thinking there. As we move on to the next game, which is Burnley versus Luton Town. So let's go Burnley versus Luton, and of course Burnley played Cardiff, and I had to smile watching that game because obviously Burnley are third position, Cardiff near the bottom, and Cardiff are trying to make sure they give a good sign of themselves and how good they're playing, and they have been playing really well. They're 2-0 down, then they got a goal. Look, I want to go to that penalty, that penalty shout that the commentary team was saying, oh, that's definitely a penalty. I think the referee got that spot on, because when you look at it, the Burnley player stood there on 2 feet. He knew that as that ball bounced away and he didn't get it, if I stand here in the middle of the penalty area on 2 feet, he's going to come straight at me and I go straight on the floor. And it was a 2-footer dive on the floor. Yes, the guy that came to him from Cardiff didn't hit the ball, he hit the player. So technically, was it a penalty? Well, to me, no, because the guy stood there waiting for this person to hopefully not hit the ball and hit him, which he did, or hit the ball, clear it away, and then hit him on the follow-through and he'd go down on the floor. Because he was standing 2-footed, stationary for a good couple of seconds if you watch him. So I think that was a right decision. However, we still get a Burnley win there, 2-1. What have Burnley been doing? Win, draw, win, lose, win. They've been doing really well. Preston defeat 3-0 away. Preston have been able to do some really cracking games, and then occasionally they just seem to play average football that doesn't seem to get them where they want to. Like I think the Portsmouth game last time out was, whether they played Portsmouth was similar to that. Sheffield United 4-0 winners. They absolutely can put goals in the net. They hadn't been doing that at the beginning half of the season. I didn't really see many big game scores, and it tended to just be the odd 1 or 2 from what I could see. Please comment down below what you think, but they seem to have got back into that ability to score goals, which they'll need to catch up Sheffield United. Luton Town, draw, lose, draw, lose, win. They won Portsmouth last time out 1-0, and I really did think that Portsmouth had enough there to be able to win that one, but unfortunately they just didn't seem to be able to top it, because obviously Portsmouth is just down the road. Luton had 10 shots, 2 on target, which I think just shows you that they're starting to shoot, but they're not going on target enough. Whereas Portsmouth 7 shots, 1 on target, again the same, but the whole ratio is going down. Number of shots are going down, and the number of shots on target are going down. The trouble with Portsmouth is that is their right hand side. The teams are attacking down the left and crossing it in and winning them, and they're starting to realise that now. So, but we'll discuss that later. So what we've got is a team. a team in Burnley that really are playing well. They're starting to tick. They're starting to really pressurise. I think realistically they should have beaten Cardiff by more than that, because their abilities just shone through for me. And Cardiff's abilities were sporadic but excellent. And they're playing a Luton side that can be beaten. Absolutely can be beaten. What are you all saying? 2-0? 0-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. I think that that Burnley were actually rather unlucky, and I think that they should have got more goals in that last game. I'm going to go with one of you, and it's because I think that Burnley are starting to score goals, and I think that they will start to click more often and more consistently in these last 10, because they're up for the top 2 and they need to be able to get there. I'm going to go with Burnley 3, Luton 1, and I agree with that person on the end there. So that's that one. And we'll move on to the next game, which is Derby County versus Blackburn Rovers. So let's continue with Derby. Blackburn and Derby lose, draw, lose. They really are in a bad position in the bottom 3, of course. And if we have a look at the table, Blackburn in 8th, and they could actually sneak into that 6th slot if they have a good run, or even a decent run, because the other teams around there aren't doing that well. Derby in 24th, they really do now have to start winning, don't they? And to do that, they're going to have to start scoring. A little bit worried about that, because at the minute, if we look at the Derby, the number of goals Derby are actually scoring, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. They're just not scoring at all. And okay, injuries and fitness levels have been reported to be an issue. Wowever, we need they are supposed to have a certain amount of depth in that squad, and I just can't see where it should make so much difference in scoring. Please do tell me what you think, Derby fans. They did start playing really well, and I thought that the change in manager would really change the fortunes. However, it just doesn't seem to have. And from what I've heard from the fans, before you start commenting, is Warren shouldn't have been got rid of, because actually they just didn't back him until the January window, and that's too late. Because players don't want to come in January as a rule. All the ones that were out there are ones that people want to move on. So they just didn't back him at the right time in summer, and that means that they've just got the wrong players in the wrong positions, and they're just not the ones that play well with each other, or are just no good, because he couldn't get the top quality players. So if the Derby fans are right, then this is going to continue till the end. And I fear for them, because that means that they're almost certainly going to go down. However, they're playing a Blackburn side who, they last time out, what did we do? Lose, win, lose, draw. The last one against Norwich was actually quite interesting, because Norwich haven't been playing that well, and I thought that Blackburn have been getting the run of the green all season until recently, and it just seems to have stopped. And they're not playing any differently. But the scores are now showing how well they're actually playing. I just want to go back to the Norwich game, because obviously they got Emmanuel Dennis sent off on 85 minutes. We'll say nothing about that. They has gone on a red card. And we'll look at the percentages here, because they had one shot on target in the entire game. And that wasn't because Norwich were damn good at the back. It was just that they didn't click up front. They just didn't get there. They were being again. We saw a lot of, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to be I'm going to be the guy that scores it. I'm not going to give it to XYZ on either side. A little bit a little bit more thought about who's around you instead of trying to go for glory. And I just see that in Blackburn at the minute. And there are times when they should have really trounced the opposition, like Plymouth winning at home to Plymouth 2-0. Blackburn should have done an awful lot more in that game. I think they could have done more, but they just didn't take the bull by the horns and get it done. I think that they've probably gotten a more... It's going to be a similar game to the Plymouth game, to be honest, I think. Although we are at Derby, I think that Plymouth are probably quite good. A good analogy here with the two games, and I think this the style and the sort of play that I'm expecting from Derby will be very, very similar. And I think we're going to see a very low-scoring game. What are you thinking on here? 0-1 to Blackburn, 0-2, 1-2, 1-1, 1-2. I can absolutely agree with most of those. And I do think that Blackburn will score. I just think it's going to be a case of, will it be one goal or will it be 2 goals? And then we're sort of thinking, what will Derby do? I think Derby will score because it's just based on statistics alone. I think that Derby have to be scoring one at some point in time, and I can see it being against a team like Blackburn, especially if they're at home against them. I'm going to go with Derby County 1, Blackburn 2. I think that Blackburn will make a bit of a meal of this, but they will be constantly on top of the game plan, and they will be on top of the game. It's just that they just won't quite get the goals that they probably deserve. Plymouth versus Sheffield Wednesday next, and let's have a look at that game. So we go with Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday. Plymouth usually quite good at home. Win, lose, draw, lose. Since that win against Liverpool and the thumping that they gave Millwall the midweek after, just seems to have died back down to their usual standard of play. And don't know why, because they were really quite good. They were even quite good against Man City when they lost 3-1. They didn't play badly at all in that game. And you think, just can't see where these good performances suddenly come from and suddenly disappear, because they can play good football. Last time out, no shots on target in the entire game against Hull City and lost 2-0. It's a side that seems to have lost its way, isn't it? Do fear for them. Their fans were actually really good, and I've got a couple of subscribers from Plymouth, so I do hope that you managed to find that pizzazz that you've had in the last 7 or 8 games. Let's see if we do. Can we do it against Sheffield Wednesday? Sheffield Wednesday, though, played really well. They lost 2-1 against Sunderland, and by no means was that an absolute one-way traffic, was it? We've got Sheffield Wednesday in 13th on 45 points, and I think that's important because they're 7 points adrift of 6th place, aren't they? Probably... No, 7 points. So you're probably thinking this is the last time that they've got the last opportunity of pushing themselves into a position in that top half where they could on 36 games, 10 games to go, nick it at the last minute. And I wouldn't put it past them either. Plymouth, though, 23rd. We know they can play well, don't we? 6 points adrift of Cardiff with 11 games to go at the minute. If they don't gain points on them, they've got 10 games to go, and that's going to be quite difficult to catch up at the bottom. That sort of points total is starting to wane a little bit heavy, isn't it? So what do we think that this game is going to be? It's both teams not doing quite well. Last time Wednesday won was 4 games ago, 1-0 against Sheffield against Swansea City. They played themselves there, guys. Plymouth 6 games ago, 5-1 against Millwall. The absolute we're flying high and we're feeling like we can beat anybody, even Liverpool. they can play really well at home, and this is what's doing me. If they're playing a team with their hearts down, yeah, they're looking upwards, but they're only just looking upwards. They're not going to get relegated, let's face it. I mean, how many points have they got, for heaven's sake? 45. You know, they'd have to get 0 points all the way through the last 11 games, which isn't going to happen, is it? So they're not going to get relegated, but, you know, they're almost on the beach. And I just worry that that's what some of the players are thinking now. There's far too many teams above us. We're on the beach. And I just got that from 1 or 2 players who, again, kept the ball and went for glory when they should have passed it sideways. It's going to be an interesting one. I think Sheffield Wednesday are the better team. I think Sheffield Wednesday can, on a normal day, beat Plymouth. However, Plymouth can play a style of football that can beat Liverpool and certainly can beat Sheffield Wednesday. So it really is very difficult. 1-1, 2-1, 3-3, 2-2, 1-0. You know, I really do find. I think it's going to be a decent game. I just can't see it being. I'm sort of looking at Plymouth's last time where they've got 0 shots on target, and I can't help but think that Sheffield Wednesday are going to do this. Really can't help but think it. I know Plymouth are really good. I know they can win at home. I think this is going to be either 1-0 to Plymouth or 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. I'm going to go against everybody here. Do apologise to my Plymouth fans, but I just think that Sheffield Wednesday have the bit between the teeth too much here. I do hope that you can get that Liverpool performance back and play well and get yourself out of that bottom 3, but on this occasion I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Plymouth 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2, and that pains me to say that as a Rotherham fan. So we'll quickly move on to the other side of Sheffield. Sheffield United versus Preston North End. The interesting thing, I think, here is that we've got 2 sides that want to try and do something here. Sheffield United versus Preston. Now let's have a look. We'll have a look at the table. Sheffield United in second, but they've got Burnley breathing down their neck, haven't they? I think Sunderland are now going to be in that playoff slot, aren't they? And you've got Preston down in 15th. They're about as on the beach as you can possibly get, aren't they? I mean, if they stay, if we were actually a game ahead, they'd be on. They'd be what 9 points? 9 points, 10 if they wanted to beat them. 10 points away from promotion, playoff position with 10 games to go, which I say is doable. 1 point per game is doable at the top, at sort of mid-top end, but only if you really do start to win more, a hell of a lot of your games and go on a really good winning run till the end. Then you can get the 1 point per game ish. I think that they're really on the beach, as much on the beach as they can be. Against Sheffield United, who just don't want to throw away this automatic slot. Will that affect their play? Well, we've got Sheffield United win, lose against Leeds, and then win. The only game they've lost, Leeds United, well, it would be, wouldn't it? Preston North End, win, draw, lose against Coventry, win against Burnley, and then draw against Swansea, and you think, wow. Preston have been just doing the most amazing, like beating Burnley, getting that goal or just sitting back and just hoping to God they can keep ahead, and it worked. And you think, wow. But against Swansea, you must remember that Preston, they had 5 shots on target. That's pretty good. Out of 20, probably about average. So they are running at a good average. Not too bad at all. 20 shots in the game is pretty good. So they can shoot. and they can get a pretty good number of shots off on target as well. Should be putting more in the net for 5 on target, but they didn't. It was 0-0. However, the signs are there that they can do it. So let's not forget that. Sheffield United won't have it all their own way. Do have a tendency, Sheffield United, to do some silly things like they look at sides and think, oh, we'll definitely be beating this one. Underestimate them, and then they get taken aback, and the team just tries to shut up shop, and it has worked several times this year against Sheffield United, even at home. So. Preston, don't write them off. I think that this could be actually a draw. This really could be a draw. Now, let's have a look at what you're saying. And this is actually quite interesting. Remember, it's Sheffield United against Preston. 2-0, 1-0, 1-1, 1-0 and 3-0. Now, I don't think it's going to be 3-0. I think that Preston I think they've shown that they can get a good percentage on target. And actually, they aren't afraid to actually shoot at target. 20 shots against Swansea shows you they can actually shoot. However, they are away. It is Sheffield United. Great crowd. Will it work? I haven't a clue. I think that there's a good chance that it could be the 1-1. I think the 1-1 is absolutely possible here. And the Sheffield United side, for me, just shows a little bit of fatigue. I don't know what you think, Sheffield United fans. Please comment down below. But the whole championship seems to be getting a little bit fatigued at the minute. The play doesn't seem to be quite as hard hitting, unless you're watching Norwich City. It seems to people seem to be just pulling back a bit and from tackles, and things are going a little bit slower across the league. Sheffield United certainly seem to be just losing a little bit of energy, a little bit quicker than they have been doing. Although their turn of scores have gone the opposite way. They're actually getting better scores than when I was watching them and thinking, really good energetic performance here. So in a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I suppose, the scores and the points are showing that they're not getting fatigued. But I just sense a little bit of a, let's pull out of that tackle. I'd rather do a 1-2 rather than tackle and try and get past him. It just seems a little bit less energetic to me. I'd love to know your thoughts on that one. I think that Sheffield Wednesday do, however, they're going to do what they usually do, aren't they? They're going to win by 1 goal. I could go for a boring 2-1, but I'm not going to go for that. Instead, I'm going to go Sheffield United 1, Preston North End 0. But this could be a 1-1. Absolutely could be a 1-1. And we'll go to Sunderland versus Cardiff, who we've seen their games before, so we'll have a quick talk about Sunderland-Cardiff. So, Sunderland-Cardiff. Sunderland win, draw, win, lose, win. 2 losses were against Leeds, which we could expect, but they didn't quite do as well as I thought they would. And Hull City, a defeat which was certainly against the run of play, I think. And then Cardiff, lose, draw, win against Hull, lose. Not really for me doing it. Cardiff actually played really well against Burnley, I thought, and they were really, really good, but Burnley were just that little bit more better than Cardiff, and I think Cardiff needed to do a little bit better on the shooting front. If you look at the stats against Burnley, Cardiff had 9 shots, 2 on target and 1 in the net. 2 on target and 1 in the net is really good. Don't take that away from them. But with 52% possession, to get 9 shots in the entire game is pretty poor. And only 2 of them on target is not great. So they're not. I think the confidence level to me in that final third is what I'm getting at. It just doesn't seem to be quite as as confident as what Burnley were. Burnley's confidence was really good. I thought, bang, straight in there. They're playing they were away at a Sunderland side who, win, draw, win, lose, win. I can understand the Leeds defeat, but I can't understand the Hull defeat. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, they can be beaten at home, and they absolutely can. The Stadium of Light is usually one of those places like the Den used to be. That it's a cauldron with all those fans in there, and amazing support. It can be absolute nightmare to play against the fans, let alone the team as well. So it really is going to be quite difficult. I can't see Cardiff winning this one, and based on their scoring ability, whether that's because of injuries or fitness levels, I don't know. Please do comment below, like and subscribe, of course, and we'll see what you lot think, because this really is quite a difficult one. 1-0 to Sunderland, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1, 2-0. I think that Cardiff can. They can produce some really good play, and I think that they can get past Sunderland's defence. I think they will get past Sunderland's defence. I think that they're going to score, but I think Sunderland, to me, just have that little bit edge, and I'm going to go with you. I think it's actually quite a difficult one to predict, to be quite honest. Sunderland played really well against Sheffield Wednesday, but Sheffield Wednesday managed to nick that goal, and it showed to me how that back line can be beaten with a good set of 1-2 touches, and I think that Cardiff can do that. Absolutely, they showed they could against Burnley. So I'm going to go with Sunderland 2, Cardiff 1, and we'll go on to our Swansea versus Middlesbrough game. So Swansea, let's have a look at the positions. Borough in 9th, and I think they're starting to believe that they have to pick things up now. They really do. They slip down to 9th. They can't afford to slip any further. Swansea in 16th. Like I say, I think they're almost on the beach really, and I can't really see them thinking anything else. So I think it's a team that's on the beach against a team that really do have to win. Swansea lose, win, draw against Preston, and Middlesbrough lose, win. They do seem to have played a little bit better against Stoke and Derby. Actually, against Derby, 1-0 win. Let's just have a look at that for Middlesbrough. They left it till the 80th minute. However, if you look at the stats, Middlesbrough actually had 18 shots, 65% possession, and 6 on target, 1 in the net. They'll be really, really gutted that they got a 3-1, 18 shots, 6 on target is really good, but 6 on target and 1 in the net. They need that to be at least 2 to be up in that top 6, 7, and they know that, and it must be really, really frustrating for the players and the manager to know that they can create them. They just can't get them in the net because they just don't seem to be playing. I think that again we've got players that would rather go for glory than pass it sideways some of the time. Not always with Borough, but some of the time. Or let it off from distance because they want to go for glory from distance instead of floating it in for someone else to have a closer shot at goal. So it's going to be a difficult one for me because I think they're both, if you look at the stats for the last 6 games, they're actually quite even. You would expect these two sides to be pretty much on, in fact, 7 points from the last 6 games. Let me say there's no FA Cup games in that for Swansea. Just make sure there's any FA Cup games in there. No, so there's and 6 points for Borough. So Borough have scored less points in the last 6 games than Swansea. In fact, they're both pretty poor. So they're both pretty poor. 7 against 6. So you can see this. It could actually be a draw. Really could be a draw. The number of goals conceded, the number of goals scored can be up and down. I mean, it really can be anywhere. Well, let's pick on one for Borough. 6 games ago, they lost against Sunderland 3-2 at home. And similarly, you've got Blackburn win for Swansea 3-0. You know, they can score, but then, you know, they can also let them in. So I think Swansea's defence is slightly better. I would prefer the Swansea defence over the Middlesbrough defence, but here that makes it quite even, because Borough, I think, are slightly, for me, better up front. They get more shots. They get more shots on target. This is going to be a lot more even than people think. What are you thinking? 2-0 to Middlesbrough, 2-0 to Middlesbrough, 2-1 to Middlesbrough, 3-2 to Middlesbrough, and 2-1 to Swansea. I wouldn't put it past being that, to be quite honest. I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go a little bit. I nearly went with 3-2. I think that 3-2 to Middlesbrough may very well be where it is, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put chicken out, and I'm going to go with Swansea 1, Middlesbrough 2, and quickly go on to Albion versus QPR. Please do like and subscribe. Yeah, please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you in another video and on our live streams, and we'll just pull up the Albion QPR. An interesting game this, and I say that because if we look at the QPR games, especially the last one, they were firing shots off like nobody's business, but they just couldn't get. You know, they really did. I think they actually did better in the first half than Sheffield United, and yet, you know, they come out 2-1 down. You know, the number of shots they're willing to take, even against the top sides, is really good. And I think that will show through here at West Brom. Will it mean they'll get score more? I don't know, because that West Brom side has a really good defence, and it can be really, really solid, that West Brom defence. The last time they scored, let 2 in, Blackburn 2-0 at home. Yeah, it's really difficult to see them letting in more than one, to be quite honest. And I can't see them letting in more than one against QPR, but I can see them letting in one, because QPR's ability to let fire is absolutely brilliant. Could they score 2? I think that QPR could and have the ability to score 2. I think they'll score 1. Looking at what you're saying there, yeah, I think you're agreeing with me, not 0 or 1, but I think they will score 1. West Bromwich Albion at home, you know, 0s and 1s are quite good. 2s occasionally. You know, I think that on the whole, they're quite capable of scoring 2. However, it's quite intermittent, and it seems to be whoever. It seems to be a problem if they come across a really good team. They scored 2 against the ones that they get in there from the start, and bang, they continue that impetus all the way through the game. And if it's against a top side, they don't seem to quite have that same theory. 1-1 against Leeds was a really good game, but I thought that they could. I mean, yeah, just pull up the stats for it. Leeds versus West Brom. Leeds 1, West Brom 1. And you see they only had, at 47% possession, they had 7 shots, 3 of them on target, 1 in the net. Now that's 3 on target, 1 in the net. It's brilliant, guys. But 7 shots. You know, you were pegged back, and you were making sure you just tried not to let them in anymore, because obviously they scored after 9 minutes. But then you still continued 1-0 down to like peg that back, and the commentators kept saying they're 1-0 down and they're playing like they're playing to keep the draw. And I agree with them. They just seem to peg back, and you're thinking, no, you've got to at some point try and get that into the other end and score, which they did. 39 minutes, but then it just seemed to be a little bit more of a it was just more passing at the back. See, the passing rate is nearly the same. They're in the 400s, both teams, and you're thinking, so West Brom were passing it in their own half. most of the time, just not getting any into the far side so they could actually get into that final third and make a shot, which is why they only got 7 shots. And you're thinking, will that make a difference? And I think that they're not going to be like that against QPR, because I think that they're going to underestimate QPR. If anything, they're going to think that they can quite easily brush QPR aside. However, I think that's going to be perhaps a wrong decision by them, because I think that that QPR will be going out here to get something out of it, even if they are sort of pretty much on the beach. I mean, they could possibly nick it if they had a really good, excellent run of wins into 6th slot. It is that even down there, but 8 points gained, 11 games possible. I think that Albion will actually underestimate QPR. I just think that they're going to underestimate them. They have done in several games where I've seen it, where they've thought they're going to overrun them, and they didn't, and it shows on their faces and on how they play. I'm going to go West Brom 1, QPR 1, and we're going to go for a drawthorn. We're going to go for the drawthorns, and we're going to go for our last game, Portsmouth versus Leeds. Surely this is a one-way traffic, isn't it? So, last time out, Portsmouth lost to Luton, never really got in the game. 7 shots, 1 on target. No, never really seemed to ever get, or almost never turn up. They are my local side, actually, by the way. It's not, my Rotherham is my hometown city. Town. Don't you dare start commenting on that one. Oh dear. Please, do like and subscribe though. 15 shots to Leeds, 2 on target. Desperately disappointed with that. I know the Leeds fans were desperately disappointed in that, and they're rightly so. They should have got more on target than 15. West Brom, though, you've got to remember their defence is damn good, and it was certainly pushing Leeds out enough to not be able to let off any shots other than distance. So it did a good job, and that means that somebody's found out how to stop them from shooting. 2 shots, 2 shots on target, 1 in the net, pretty good. West Brom though kept them out. Only 7 shots, 3 of them on target, 1 in the net. Their ratios are really good, but 7 shots from 47% possession. Still got 416 passes. It was really good. Their passing rate was really good, and it was kept in their own half of the pitch, though. So will that make a difference here? And I think it will, because we can look at West Brom, we can see how they managed to pull back Leeds and stop them from having too many shots. Portsmouth, though, have that right. Their right wing is so weak, and all the teams that I've seen that beat them have gone down the left side, bang, cross, in the net, and they don't seem to be learning. Their right wing needs to be covered a hell of a lot more than what it is, because the opposition teams are going down the left wing, bang, passing that last man, crossing it in, and it's going in the net more often than not. And we've got a team here, Leeds, that are just gonna go. It's gonna be the highway to hell, isn't it, down the left hand side? So Portsmouth do have the ability to score. How many have they scored? 0, 1, 2, 2. 2 and 0. They do have the ability to score, but then the chances don't seem to always be there. I think that Leeds will actually make a better feast of this down that left-hand side of theirs. I think it's going to be Portsmouth 1, Leeds 3. Please do like and subscribe. Please do share it if you can. And I'll see you on the live watch-alongs on Saturday. It's John Esser Sports Channel over out for another predictions video. Championship, week 36. Thank you. Like and subscribe.